The doorbell rang at 3:07 in the morning, which was an hour reserved for three kinds of people: criminals, ghosts, and neighbors who had forgotten where they lived. Daniel opened one eye in the dark and stared at the ceiling as if the ceiling owed him an explanation. The bell rang again, longer this time, desperate enough to drag him out of bed with one sock on and the other mysteriously missing, as if even his clothing had decided not to get involved. He grabbed the old umbrella by the door, not because it was useful as a weapon, but because it was the closest thing in the apartment that made him feel heroic. When he unlocked the door, cold rain and streetlights spilled into the hallway, and with them came a woman who looked almost human. Almost. She stood barefoot on the wet steps, trembling beneath a dark silver cloak that shimmered like oil on water. Her face was pale and beautiful in a way that made Daniel briefly forget he was wearing pajama pants with cartoon planets on them. Her eyes were violet, bright with terror, and her ears were long, elegant, rising through strands of rain-dark hair like something from an old myth that had learned how to operate a spaceship. "Please hide me," she whispered. "They are only minutes behind." Daniel blinked. "Is this theater?" She stared at him, breath shaking. "What? Street theater, very committed, great ears, by the way, terrifyingly realistic." A faint blue light pulsed beneath her collarbone. Then the porch bulb flickered, died, and came back glowing green. Daniel looked up at it. "That bulb has been dead for 6 months." The woman flinched and turned toward the empty street. At first Daniel saw nothing except rain, parked cars, and the old bakery sign buzzing across the road. Then the air above the asphalt bent inward, like glass pressed by invisible fingers. 3 black shapes appeared, silent and hovering, no bigger than crows but moving with the precision of machines that had never known mercy. Daniel's mouth went dry. The woman grabbed his wrist. Her fingers were cold. "If they scan me here, everyone inside this building dies." "That is a very strong argument for coming in," Daniel said, stepping aside so quickly he hit his shoulder on the doorframe. She slipped inside, dripping rain onto his cheap rug. Daniel closed the door, locked it, then locked the chain, then pushed a shoe rack against it because panic enjoyed symbolic gestures. The woman looked at the shoe rack. "Advanced human defense system?" she asked. "Yes," Daniel said. "Very expensive, mostly works on guests." A tiny laugh escaped her, broken but real. Then the walls hummed. From beneath her cloak she pulled a device shaped like a folded star. Its edges unfolded in impossible directions, revealing floating symbols that burned gold in the air. Daniel stepped back and nearly tripped over his missing sock. "What is that?" "A veil engine," she said. "It can hide my biosignature for a short time." "Wonderful. I usually hide from problems with unpaid bills, but this seems fancier." She pressed the device against the floor. A wave of silver light spread across the apartment, passing through the furniture, the walls, and Daniel's feet with a cold tickle. Outside, the hovering drones drifted closer to the windows. Their lenses glowed red, scanning brick, glass, shadow. The woman held her breath. Daniel did the same, though he was not sure why. Perhaps because every movie had trained him that breathing near alien murder machines was rude. One drone floated past the kitchen window. Its red light crossed the sink, the coffee mugs, and the pile of dishes Daniel had been emotionally ignoring for 2 days. The woman stared at the mess. "You live alone?" she whispered. Daniel nodded. "I guessed. Can we save the insults until after the assassins leave?" The drone paused. A thin beam of light slipped under the window frame and touched the floor. The silver veil around them flickered. The woman's hand went to her side, where a curved blade of transparent metal appeared from nowhere. Daniel whispered, "Please tell me that is decorative. It is ceremonial." "Oh, good. And lethal." "Less good." The beam crawled closer. Daniel looked around wildly, searching for a brilliant plan. His eyes landed on the microwave. Without thinking, he lunged into the kitchen and turned it on empty. It roared angrily, sparks flashing blue inside. The alien device on the floor stabilized. The woman stared. "What did you do?" "I don't know," Daniel whispered. human science. Outside, the drone jerked sideways, its red lens blinking in confusion. Then it rose into the rain and glided away with the others, vanishing one by one into the bent air above the street. For several seconds, neither of them moved. Then Daniel's microwave gave a sad final beep and died. The woman slowly lowered her blade. "You saved me." Daniel looked at the smoking microwave, then at the rain dripping from her cloak onto his rug. "Technically, I sacrificed breakfast." She tried to smile, but fear still clung to her face. "My name is Lyra." "Daniel, Daniel," she said softly, as if testing whether the name could be trusted. "I have brought danger to your door." He glanced at the green porch light, the alien symbols fading from his floor and the ruined microwave. "Yes," he said. "But to be fair, most guests only bring awkward conversation, so this is memorable." Daniel kept staring at the front door long after the drones had vanished. The apartment had become unnaturally quiet, broken only by the rain tapping against the windows, and the faint crackling sound of his deceased microwave releasing what he hoped was its final breath. "So," he said carefully, "on a scale from 1 to planet explodes, how serious is this?" Lyra looked down for a moment before answering, closer to the second one. "I knew I should have stayed asleep." A tired smile crossed her face despite everything. It disappeared almost as quickly as it came. The silver device resting on the floor folded itself into a tiny metallic sphere and floated back into her hand. Daniel watched it with open fascination. "It flies. It obeys. I've been trying to get my vacuum cleaner to do that for 3 years." She tucked the sphere beneath her cloak. "Your machines seem rebellious. You have no idea." A loud clank echoed from the radiator. Daniel jumped. "The heating system isn't with the assassins," he muttered. "It just enjoys emotional timing." Lyra slowly walked through the apartment, examining everything with cautious curiosity. She paused before a bookshelf and picked up a framed photograph of Daniel standing beside an old telescope. "You study the stars." "I repair observatory equipment when universities remember I exist." "You repair machines that observe the universe." "They mostly observe clouds where I live." Her long ears twitched slightly as another pulse of invisible energy swept through the room. Daniel noticed it this time. The air shimmered for less than a second. "What was that?" "My veil engine is masking my biological signature." "Biological signature." "My body emits quantum resonance unlike any species native to this planet." Daniel blinked. "I emit disappointment when I forget to pay my electricity bill." She actually laughed this time. The sound surprised both of them. Then she suddenly froze, her eyes focused on nothing. "They've released seekers." "What are seekers?" Instead of answering, she pointed toward the ceiling. Daniel listened. Nothing. Then, a faint scratching, not above the roof. Inside the walls, tiny metallic clicks multiplied, moving with terrifying speed between the insulation and pipes. Daniel frowned. "We definitely don't have mice that sound like tiny robots." Lyra extended her hand. A transparent blue panel unfolded from a bracelet hidden beneath her sleeve. Symbols flowed across it faster than Daniel could read. "They've deployed molecular reconnaissance units. I was happier when I thought they were mice." The scratching stopped, complete silence. Daniel swallowed. "Is that good?" "No." Every light in the apartment dimmed simultaneously. His television switched itself on. Static filled the screen. Then the static organized itself into geometric patterns before forming a single crimson symbol. It resembled an eye surrounded by broken circles. Lyra's face lost all color. "They found us." The television spoke, not in English, not in any language Daniel had ever heard. The voice sounded as though several people were speaking together. Lyra answered sharply in the same strange language. The room vibrated. The screen went black. Daniel waited 3 seconds. "I feel like I missed an important part of that conversation." She looked at him. "They offered you mercy." "They what?" "If you surrender me." Daniel rubbed his forehead. "They don't even know me." "They know you opened the door." Hospitality really has become dangerous. Outside, thunder rolled across the city, except it wasn't thunder. The sound remained perfectly steady, growing louder. Daniel carefully pulled back the curtain by a few centimeters. Above the apartment building, hidden within the storm clouds, enormous hexagonal lights flickered into existence before fading again. Something unimaginably large hovered beyond human sight. His heartbeat accelerated. Please tell me that's weather. It is not weather. Please tell me it's an advertisement. It is an orbital hunter. Daniel slowly let the curtain fall. I preferred my boring life. Lyra lowered her eyes. You can still have it. She reached beneath her cloak and removed a crystal no larger than a coin. It glowed with swirling silver light. If I leave now, they may ignore you. May. There are no guarantees. Daniel looked around his apartment. The broken microwave, the overflowing sink, the crooked bookshelf he kept meaning to fix. 20 minutes earlier, those had been his biggest problems. Now an invisible warship was floating above his neighborhood. He sighed. I was supposed to work tomorrow. You still can. I don't think my boss accepts alien royal emergency as an excuse. You haven't asked. He smiled despite himself. No, but somehow I think he'd still make me fill out a form. For the first time since arriving, Lyra's frightened expression softened into genuine amusement. Then every window in the apartment flashed bright crimson. Once, twice, 3 times. The floating sphere hidden beneath her cloak suddenly shot into the air. Its calm blue glow turned blood red. They're no longer searching, she whispered. Daniel felt the room grow colder. What are they doing now? Lyra looked directly at him. They're coming inside. The first sound came from the hallway, not as footsteps, but as a soft bending of metal, like someone politely twisting the building apart. Daniel stared at his apartment door, where the chain lock trembled in tiny nervous clicks. Please tell me your people knock, he whispered. Lyra drew the transparent blade again. It unfolded from her palm with a clear, musical ring. Assassins rarely observe door etiquette. That's rude. Even murder should have standards. The door handle turned by itself. Then it melted, not burned, melted as if it had suddenly remembered it was liquid. Daniel's heroic instincts awakened at once and ordered him to hide behind the couch. Unfortunately, Lyra was already moving. She swept one hand through the air, and the silver sphere darted forward, projecting a thin blue shield across the doorway just as 3 figures stepped through the smoke. They were tall, wrapped in black armor that swallowed the light around them. Their faces were hidden behind smooth helmets with narrow red visors. They carried weapons that looked less like guns and more like pieces of frozen lightning. One of them spoke in that layered, terrible language. Lyra answered with a voice suddenly colder than the rain outside. Daniel leaned toward her. Are we negotiating? They said surrender. And you said, I questioned their ancestry. Good. Diplomacy. The first assassin raised his weapon. Lyra pushed Daniel down as a silent beam sliced through the room, cutting his bookshelf in half. Books slid everywhere. One of them, an old manual titled Beginner's Guide to Telescope Maintenance, landed open at the assassin's feet. Daniel grabbed the nearest object, a half-empty bottle of window cleaner. He sprayed it directly at the red visor. The assassin froze. Lyra stared at him. Daniel shrugged. Human chemical warfare. The assassin staggered back, visor sparking. Lyra moved like moonlight given a body. Her long ears flicked beneath her wet hair as she spun low, her blade striking the attacker's armor without blood, only bursts of blue fire. The second assassin fired, but Daniel yanked the living room lamp cord. The lamp fell, the beam hit its metal stand, and ricocheted into Daniel's ancient toaster on the counter. The toaster exploded with magnificent betrayal. A wave of sparks filled the kitchen. The third assassin stumbled as his armor crackled. Daniel coughed. That toaster has wanted revenge for years. Lyra seized his hand. We cannot stay. I was beginning to suspect that. She ran toward the bathroom. Daniel resisted. Unless your escape plan is hiding in the shower, I have concerns. Lyra slapped her palm against the cracked bathroom tiles. Golden symbols spread over the wall like glowing vines. The old mirror rippled, reflecting not Daniel's terrified face but a dark tunnel lined with alien light. Daniel pointed at it. My landlord never mentioned this. It is a transit seam. In my bathroom. Your building was constructed above buried relay stone. I knew the rent was too cheap. Behind them the assassins recovered. One stepped through the broken doorway, armor smoking, weapon rising. Lyra shoved Daniel through the mirror. Cold swallowed him. For one impossible second he was falling through stars. Not the pretty kind seen from Earth, but roaring rivers of light, blue suns, broken moons, and enormous machines sleeping between dimensions. Then he crashed onto a metal floor and rolled into a wall. Lyra landed gracefully beside him. Daniel groaned. Of course you land like that. They were inside a tunnel beneath the city, though no human engineer had ever designed it. The walls pulsed with soft green veins of energy. Ancient panels curved overhead, covered in dust and symbols older than any alphabet Daniel knew. Lyra touched one panel with trembling fingers. The tunnel awakened. Far ahead, rows of lights ignited one by one, stretching into darkness. Daniel stood slowly. So, about the people trying to vaporize my furniture. Lyra turned to him, rain still clinging to her hair, fear and shame battling in her violet eyes. My name is not only Lyra, she said. I am Lyra Vale of the House of Aranth. Daniel waited. That sounds expensive. I am the last heir of the royal dynasty that once held the 12 systems together. My blood can awaken the ancient defense network. Without it, several worlds will fall into war. Daniel looked back at the shimmering mirror where shadows moved on the other side. He inhaled carefully. So when you rang my doorbell, I brought the future of star systems with me. Daniel nodded slowly. Next time, maybe lead with that instead of ruining my microwave. The tunnel carried them beneath the sleeping city like a forgotten vein of metal and light. Daniel walked behind Lyra, one hand pressed against the wall because the floor occasionally shifted beneath his feet as if it were breathing. Green energy pulsed through transparent pipes, illuminating dust that had not moved for centuries. Somewhere above them, people were probably asleep, dreaming ordinary dreams about work, rent, and lost socks. Daniel envied them with deep spiritual sincerity. Lyra moved carefully, her long ears tilted toward every faint vibration. She had wrapped her silver cloak tighter around herself, but the royal confidence she tried to wear kept slipping. Daniel noticed. It was hard not to. A woman who had just announced she was the last heir to a dynasty should have looked majestic. Instead, she looked cold, exhausted, and slightly offended by the tunnel. Royal passages usually cleaner. Daniel asked. My ancestors had standards. My landlord also claimed that before showing me the bathroom. She glanced back and despite herself smiled. A low hum rose ahead. The tunnel opened into a buried chamber where an ancient transit pod rested on magnetic rails, half covered in roots and mineral dust. It resembled a crystal coffin attached to the engine of a very judgmental spaceship. Daniel stopped at once. No, he said, Lyra turned. No, I have survived drones, assassins, a mirror bathroom, and the death of my toaster. I am not climbing into the glowing coffin train. It is safe. Every terrifying machine in history was introduced with that sentence. Lyra placed her palm on the pod. Symbols awakened beneath her fingers, spiraling outward in gold and blue. The pod opened with a soft sigh, releasing air that smelled faintly of lightning and ancient flowers. Daniel pointed at it. That thing just exhaled. It is greeting me. It sounds like it remembered taxes. They climbed in. The interior reshaped itself around them, forming 2 seats from liquid glass. Daniel sat stiffly as silver belts slid across his chest on their own. I prefer seat belts that ask permission. They protect the body during compression travel. Compression what? The pod launched. The world became a line. Daniel's stomach remained somewhere behind them, possibly filing a complaint. The tunnel blurred into emerald rings. then into scattered stars, then into impossible glimpses of places that could not exist beneath Earth. Black oceans under violet moons, cities folded inside crystals, enormous gates turning in darkness. When the pod finally slowed, Daniel made a sound no adult man should make. Lyra touched his arm. "Are you injured?" "My pride is critically wounded." They emerged into the ruins of an old observatory on a hill outside the city. Dawn had not yet arrived, but the horizon carried a pale bruise of coming light. The observatory dome was cracked, its telescope aimed at the clouds like a tired giant refusing to stop watching the sky. Daniel knew this place. He had repaired equipment here years ago, before the university abandoned it. "How did this connect to your tunnel?" Lyra stepped into the dust, looking up at the telescope. "Humanity built over many older things without knowing. Some of your observatories were placed where the stars whispered louder." "That sounds poetic, also legally concerning." A small shape darted from behind a broken desk. Daniel yelped. A raccoon froze in the moonlight, holding what looked like half a sandwich wrapper. Lyra lifted her blade instantly. "No," Daniel whispered. "Local wildlife, mostly criminal, not assassin." The raccoon stared at Lyra's glowing blade, reconsidered its life choices, and fled. Lyra lowered the weapon with dignity. It looked suspicious. It was wearing a mask. That's normal for them. For a moment, they both laughed softly, and the ruined observatory felt less like a hiding place and more like a shelter. Then Lyra approached the telescope and touched the metal base. A hidden panel opened, revealing a star map hovering in the air. Thousands of points burned red. Only one glowed white. "Our path," she said. "An ancient gate beneath the northern ridge. If I reach it, I can call those still loyal to my house." Daniel stared at the red points. "And those are enemy trackers." "That is an aggressive amount of red." The observatory roof trembled. Far above the clouds, something massive moved, blocking out a patch of stars. A beam of pale light swept over the hills, searching. Lyra's smile faded. Daniel looked at the sky, then at her. "Let me guess, not weather again." "No," she said quietly, "and not an advertisement." The beam moved closer, washing the ruined observatory in cold silver light. Daniel took a breath, grabbed an old toolbox from the floor, and forced a grin. "All right, Your Highness. Let's go save several star systems before breakfast." The silver beam swept across the observatory windows just as Daniel and Lyra ducked behind the cracked telescope base. Dust rained from the old ceiling. Somewhere outside, the invisible hunter above the clouds released a deep vibration that made every loose screw in the building tremble like nervous teeth. Daniel clutched the toolbox to his chest. "I would like to officially complain that my life had fewer spaceships yesterday." Lyra pressed her hand against the hidden star map, and the white point pulsed brighter. "The gate is beneath the ridge. If we reach it, I can send a royal signal. And if we do, then many worlds will believe my bloodline ended." "Right, no pressure, just several civilizations and my breakfast schedule." They slipped out through the observatory's rear exit, into a narrow path descending through wet grass and black stones. Above them, the clouds glowed from within as the orbital hunter searched. Lyra moved silently, despite exhaustion. Her long ears caught each distant sound before Daniel even knew there was danger. Twice, she pulled him down before pale scanning beams crossed the trail. Once Daniel stepped into mud so deep his shoe made a tragic farewell noise. He looked down at his sock. "We lost a brave soldier." Lyra, despite the fear in her eyes, whispered, "Will there be a ceremony?" "With coffee, if we survive." The ridge opened into a valley hidden beneath twisted pines. At its center stood a stone arch half buried in moss. It looked ancient, but the air inside it shimmered with stars that were not Earth's. Lyra approached slowly, her violet eyes filling with reflected galaxies. "This gate was built before my dynasty," she said, "before even the 12 systems had names." Daniel ran his fingers over the arch. The stone was warm. Beneath the moss, tiny circuits flowed like veins of blue fire. So naturally, someone left it unlocked in the woods. It is not unlocked. The arch suddenly flashed red. A mechanical voice thundered in an alien language. Lyra stiffened. Daniel glanced at her. Please tell me, it said, welcome. It asked for royal verification. That sounds reasonable. And then it called me deceased. Less reasonable. Lyra placed both hands on the arch. Golden light spread from her palms, but the gate resisted, sparks snapping around her wrists. She gasped, refusing to let go. Daniel dropped the toolbox and grabbed her arm, trying to pull her back. The instant his skin touched hers, the arch turned white. Every circuit awakened. Daniel froze. I didn't do it. Lyra stared at the gate. You did. The stone split open without breaking, unfolding into rings of light. Beyond them appeared a massive station orbiting a dying red star. Its towers curved like crowns and broken ships drifted around it like fallen leaves. A voice spoke from the gate, this time in perfect English. Human genetic key recognized. Royal heir detected. Access restored. Daniel slowly raised one finger. Sorry, human what? Lyra looked at him as if seeing him for the first time. Your species was never supposed to be disconnected from the network. That is going to make family dinners very confusing. Before she could answer, the forest behind them exploded with blue fire. 3 assassin craft descended between the trees, folding out of invisibility. Armored figures dropped to the ground. Lyra pulled Daniel toward the gate. Run. I love how often you say that. They leapt through. Cold starlight swallowed them and the forest vanished. Daniel landed hard on polished black metal. This time Lyra landed beside him, nearly falling, and he caught her before she hit the floor. Around them stretched an enormous chamber inside the hidden station. Windows as tall as cathedrals revealed the dying star outside, its red light spilling over ancient machines and floating command thrones. The gate sealed behind them. For one breath, there was silence. Then the entire station woke. Lights ignited across the walls. Machines lifted from their sleep. 1,000 holographic banners appeared in the air, each bearing the same royal symbol Lyra had tried to hide beneath her cloak. Daniel looked at her, then at the impossible station, then down at his single muddy sock. I feel underdressed for galactic history. Lyra gave him a tired, trembling smile. A new voice echoed through the chamber. Welcome, Princess Lyra Vale. Welcome, human custodian. Daniel blinked. Custodian. The floor opened beneath a nearby throne, revealing a swarm of repair drones that immediately surrounded him like excited metal insects. Lyra's smile widened. Daniel sighed. Great. I crossed the galaxy and still got a maintenance job. The repair drones circled Daniel with the excitement of puppies made from knives. One scanned his muddy sock, projected a warning symbol, and politely tried to remove it. Absolutely not, Daniel said, hopping back. That sock and I have survived too much together. Lyra stood before the command throne, her silver cloak stirring in air that had not moved for centuries. Around her, the station continued to awaken. Vast rings rotated outside the windows, catching the dying star's red light and bending it into streams of gold. Ancient engines hummed beneath the floor like sleeping giants remembering their names. The voice returned. Royal heir confirmed. Human custodian confirmed. Defense network awaiting dual command. Daniel pointed at himself. I need to be clear, I fix telescope mounts and sometimes microwaves. Badly. You stabilized a Vale engine with one, Lyra said. I killed it heroically. Before she could smile, the windows darkened. Ships appeared beyond the station. Not one or two, but hundreds, unfolding from invisible space like black thorns. Their weapons charged in cold blue silence. At their center drifted a larger vessel shaped like a broken crown. Lyra's face tightened. Commander Verk. Daniel looked at her. Friend. He served my father. That sounded like the beginning of a very bad answer. A hologram ignited above the floor. A tall man in dark armor appeared, his face scarred, his eyes pale and empty. He bowed slightly to Lyra, but there was no respect in it. Princess, he said, You should have remained dead. Lyra stepped forward. You murdered my house. I saved the systems from royal weakness. Daniel raised a hand. As the confused human in the room, I'd like to say that murdering everyone rarely improves management. Verk's eyes shifted to him. The human key, how amusing. I get that a lot tonight. The hologram vanished. The first blast struck the station. The chamber tilted. Daniel crashed into the throne and the repair drones exploded into frantic motion, patching cracks with streams of liquid silver. Lyra gripped the command console as golden symbols climbed her arms. The network needs both of us, she said. Your hand. Daniel placed his palm beside hers. The console turned white. For a moment he saw everything. 12 star systems burning with fear, hidden gates, sleeping weapons, old treaties written in light, and Earth, small, blue, forgotten, but connected by a thread no one had managed to cut. The station spoke. Command accepted. Outside, ancient orbital structures awakened around the dying star. Rings opened like enormous eyes. Daniel swallowed. Please tell me we don't accidentally destroy a moon. Lyra glanced at him. Try not to press anything dramatic. I never press anything dramatic on purpose. Another blast hit. The defense rings fired, not destruction but waves of gravitational light. Enemy ships spun helplessly, weapons disabled, engines frozen. Verk's crown-shaped vessel pushed through the storm, refusing to stop. Lyra's voice trembled but did not break. He is coming here. Daniel looked at the sealed doors as red alarms bloomed across them. Of course he is, he said. Nobody ever stays outside where space has plenty of room. The doors burst open in a storm of blue sparks, and Commander Verk entered with his blade drawn, black armor smoking from the station's defenses. Lyra stepped before Daniel, but Daniel gently moved beside her instead of behind her. A few hours ago, he had been a man hiding from doorbells. Now he stood inside a royal command chamber orbiting a dying star, one muddy sock missing, and somehow felt exactly where he needed to be. Verk raised his weapon. The dynasty ends tonight. Daniel sighed. People keep saying dramatic things before breakfast. Lyra's hand found Daniel's on the console. The station responded, filling the chamber with golden light. Around them, holograms of the 12 systems appeared. Worlds on the edge of war, fleets waiting, cities holding their breath. Lyra looked at Verk, not with hatred but sorrow. My family failed by ruling from above. I will not repeat that. The network will not serve a throne. It will protect every world equally. Verk hesitated. That single pause was enough. Daniel remembered every broken machine he had ever repaired. The trick was never force but listening. He touched the console and whispered, "Disable weapons, not people." The station obeyed. A pulse of white light moved through space. Enemy ships went dark one by one, weapons folding shut like tired wings. Verk's blade dissolved in his hand. Across the holograms, rebel commanders, loyal fleets, and frightened governments all saw the same message. The royal heir lived, but she had chosen peace over conquest. Verk fell to his knees, defeated not by death, but by the thing he had believed impossible, mercy. Hours later, dawn rose over Earth. Daniel's apartment door was still ruined, his microwave dead, and his toaster nothing but a heroic memory. Lyra stood on his doorstep beneath the repaired sky, her long ears bright in the morning light, royal ships hidden beyond the clouds. "I brought danger to your door," she said softly. Daniel looked at the scorch marks, the broken lock, and the shoe rack still standing proudly in the hallway. "You also brought proof that my bathroom was secretly important." She laughed, and this time there was no fear in it. The 12 systems accepted Lyra as guardian, not queen. Earth was remembered, its forgotten connection restored. Daniel was offered a grand title among the stars, though he insisted maintenance guy was already powerful enough. He had opened his door as an ordinary man afraid of trouble, and he ended the night as someone who no longer mistook an ordinary life for a small one. Lyra looked back once before stepping into the waiting light. Daniel among my people knocking at 3 in the morning is considered very rude. He smiled. Good, then next time call first. The gate shimmered open, warm as sunrise, and together they walked toward a future large enough for both Earth and the stars.